The December wind cut through the cemetery like a blade when Adesua Okafor witnessed something that would shatter her world forever. There, kneeling before her son Kwame's polished granite headstone, was a young woman in a cleaning uniform, holding a small boy close to her chest. Both were sobbing as if their hearts had been ripped apart. Adesua froze, her designer heels clicking against the frozen ground. At 58, the iron-willed CEO of Okafor Enterprises had never seen these two strangers before. But something about the child's delicate features made her pulse quicken with recognition. "Excuse me," Adesua's voice sliced through the cemetery's silence like a sword. "This is private property. You're trespassing." The young woman looked up, revealing tear-stained cheeks and eyes red from crying. "I'm sorry. I didn't expect anyone today." "Who are you?" Adesua demanded, her business instincts sharpening. "And why are you crying at my son's grave?" The child, about 5 years old, gazed up at Adesua with striking amber eyes, eyes she recognized instantly. Eyes identical to Kwame's. Eyes that mirrored her own. "My name is Zara Mensah," the woman replied, wiping her face with trembling hands. "I work at the city center hospital as a janitor. This is Kofi. We come here every month because—" She hesitated, glancing at the boy, "because Kwame was very important to us." Adesua's world tilted. Kwame had died 4 years ago in a motorcycle accident at age 29, taking with him all her dreams for the Okafor legacy. She had investigated every corner of his life afterward, searching for meaning in his loss. Never had she found evidence of serious relationships, let alone a child. "Important how?" Adesua's voice dropped to a whisper. The rain began falling harder, but none of them moved. Zara met Adesua's gaze with unexpected courage. "Because Kofi is his son. And because I promised Kwame I would always protect him, no matter what happened." The expensive flowers slipped from Adesua's grasp, scattering across the wet stone. 4 years. For years she had mourned alone, believing her bloodline had ended with Kwame. 4 years, only to discover she had a grandson being raised by a hospital janitor in conditions she couldn't even imagine. But there was something in Zara's eyes that didn't match her simple story. A wariness, a hidden strength, as if she was guarding secrets far bigger than just Kofi's existence. What Adesua didn't know was that this revelation was merely the first thread in a web of deception involving people very close to her. And that Zara's apparent vulnerability concealed a determination that would soon shake the foundations of Adesua's privileged world. If you're ready to discover how a chance encounter in a cemetery became the biggest twist in one of the most powerful women's life, stay tuned for a story that will leave you speechless. 3 weeks after the cemetery confrontation, Adesua had transformed her private study into a war room. Private investigator reports covered her antique desk, each page revealing details about Zara Mensah's life that left her increasingly unsettled. "Single mother, no known family," Adesua muttered, scanning the documents. "Works 70 hours a week at multiple jobs. Lives in a cramped apartment in the poorest district. High school education only." Her personal assistant, David, stood silently nearby. He had watched Adesua demolish corporate rivals with less emotion than she was showing now. "What about the child's biological mother?" Adesua asked, her steel blue eyes fixed on a grainy photo of Kofi playing in a rundown playground. "That's where it gets strange," David said, opening another file. "We found no birth certificate, no hospital records, no documentation about who actually gave birth to Kofi. It's as if his biological mother simply vanished." Adesua's fingers drummed against the mahogany table, a gesture her executives had learned to fear. 4 years ago, when Kwame died, she had dissected every moment of his life looking for answers. She had never found evidence of any romantic relationships. "Schedule a meeting with this." "Zara," Adesua said, pronouncing the name like it tasted bitter. "Tomorrow at 3 p.m. My office." The next day, Zara arrived at Okafor Enterprises wearing her only decent dress, purchased from a second-hand shop. The 70-story glass tower seemed to mock her as she entered, its polished surfaces reflecting a distorted version of herself. Adesua received her in the executive suite, where floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the entire city below. It was a calculated display of dominance, and both women understood it perfectly. "Please, sit." Adesua gestured to a chair positioned deliberately lower than her own. "I prefer to stand, thank you," Zara replied firmly. "As you wish." Adesua opened a thick folder. "I've researched you thoroughly, Miss Mensah. Multiple jobs, no savings, living in conditions completely unsuitable for a child. Kofi is loved and well cared for," Zara responded, her voice steady. Adesua's smile was razor-sharp. "I'm sure you try your best. But an Okafor child deserves more than your best. He deserves everything money can provide." "And what exactly are you proposing?" $300,000, Adesua said, sliding a check across the polished surface. "Kofi comes to live with me. Private schools, world-class education, the future Kwame would have wanted for him. You can visit on weekends, naturally." Zara stared at the check as if it were a venomous snake. "Are you attempting to purchase my son?" "He's not your son." Adesua's mask of civility began cracking. "He's my grandson. My blood. Frankly, a janitor barely out of her 20s cannot provide what a family like mine can offer." "Family?" Zara laughed, but the sound held no warmth. "Adesua, may I call you Adesua? You want to discuss family?" "Kofi has called me Mema for 4 years. I comfort him during nightmares. I help him with homework at our kitchen table. I read him stories before bed. That's family." Adesua stood, using her height to intimidate. "Noble words, but reality is harsh. You work like a slave just to pay rent. Kofi deserves private tutors, international travel, opportunities you can never provide. And he deserves unconditional love," Zara shot back. "Something you clearly failed to give your own son." The silence that followed was deafening. Adesua felt as if she'd been struck. "How dare you speak to me that way?" "Kwame told me about you," Zara continued, her voice cutting deep. "The missed school events, the soccer games you never attended, the birthdays where you sent expensive gifts through assistants. You want Kofi because he represents a second chance to ease your guilt, not because you truly care about him." Adesua's hands clenched into fists. "You know nothing about me." "No, but I knew your son. And I understand exactly why he never told you about Kofi." Zara picked up the check and tore it cleanly in half, the pieces floating to the floor like autumn leaves. "Kofi is not for sale." "Then we'll settle this the difficult way," Adesua said, her voice taking on a menacing edge. "I have resources beyond your imagination. Legal teams, investigators, connections at every government level. I can prove that a single mother with no education living in poverty is not in the child's best interest." Zara smiled for the first time since entering the office. Something in that smile made Adesua pause. "Adesua," Zara said softly, "you're assuming I'm just a poor janitor you can intimidate. But there are things about me, about Kofi, about Kwame that you haven't discovered yet. And when you do—" She paused, her eyes flashing with determination that surprised the billionaire. "Let's just say your investigators aren't as thorough as you believe." She walked toward the door, pausing only to look back. "And Adesua? The next time you want to discuss Kofi, it will be on my terms, not yours." After Zara left, Adesua stood alone in her office, the torn check pieces still scattered on the floor. For the first time in decades, someone had walked away from her negotiation table holding all the power. What disturbed Adesua most was why a simple hospital janitor displayed such unshakable confidence. It was as if Zara possessed some secret knowledge, some hidden advantage that made all of Adesua's threats meaningless. Even more unsettling, for the first time in her life, Adesua Okafor felt like she was being studied, analyzed, and evaluated by someone who saw through all her defenses and wasn't impressed by what they found. 5 days after the office confrontation, Adesua received a phone call that left her speechless. Her lead attorney, Marcus Thompson from the prestigious firm Thompson & Associates, sounded genuinely nervous, something extremely rare in their 15-year partnership. "Adesua, we need to discuss the custody situation," he said, tension evident in his voice. "I received a call today about Miss Mensah's legal representation." Adesua chuckled, tapping her pen against the desk. "With what money? It must be some inexperienced public defender." "Actually," Marcus paused, "it's Hamilton, Rodriguez and Partners. They're representing her pro bono." Adesua nearly dropped her coffee. Hamilton, Rodriguez and Partners was one of the top 3 law firms in the country, specializing in civil rights cases with an undefeated record in major court battles. "That's impossible. Why would they interest themselves in some janitor?" "I don't know. But there's more. They've already filed a protective motion claiming any attempt to forcibly remove the child would constitute kidnapping based on socioeconomic discrimination." Adesua slammed the phone down hard enough to crack the handset. Zara had played her first card, and it was far more powerful than Adesua had thought possible. Meanwhile, in Zara's modest apartment, a very different gathering was taking place. The small living room was filled with people Adesua would never have expected to find there. Dr. Samuel Asante, a law professor from Georgetown University. Investigative journalist Fatima Al-Rashid, known for her exposés on corporate corruption. And at the center of it all, an elegant woman in her 60s whom Zara treated with obvious love and respect. "Aunt Amma, thank you for coming," Zara said, embracing the woman. "I know it was a long flight from Atlanta." Amma Mensah smiled, her intelligent eyes sparkling with the same fire Zara had shown in Adesua's office. "Child, when you called and said the moment had finally arrived, I cancelled everything. We've been preparing for this day for 4 years." Kofi played on the floor, unaware of the important conversation surrounding him. Dr. Asante opened a thick briefcase filled with documents and photographs. "Zara, are you certain you want to proceed? Once we begin, there's no turning back. Adesua Okafor has immense resources and won't hesitate to use them all." "Dr. Asante," Zara replied, her voice calm but resolute, "I've been preparing for this moment for 4 years. Every evening class I've attended, every legal textbook I've studied, every contact I've cultivated, it's all been to protect Kofi and honor Kwame's memory." Fatima looked up from her laptop. "The evidence you've compiled is remarkable, Zara. 4 years of meticulous documentation of Okafor Enterprises' questionable business practices, including bribes to city officials and systematic worker exploitation." Amma walked to the window, gazing out at the modest neighborhood view. "Adesua thinks her wealth makes her untouchable. She has no idea that my niece has spent 4 years studying her every move, every corrupt deal, every tax evasion scheme." Aunt Amma taught corporate law at Emory University for 25 years, Zara explained to Dr. Asante. "She's the one who taught me that knowledge is the only weapon they can't purchase or steal from you." Zara's phone rang. It was Adesua, clearly furious. "What game are you playing?" Adesua shouted. "Hamilton, Rodriguez and Partners? How does a janitor afford lawyers of that caliber?" Zara activated the speakerphone, allowing everyone to hear. "Adesua, I warned you there were things about me you hadn't discovered yet. I don't care what tricks you're using. Kofi is my grandson, and I have unlimited resources to get what I want." "Unlimited resources?" Zara smiled, looking at her allies. "Adesua, you're assuming money is the only form of power. But what if I told you there's something far more powerful?" "And what would that be?" "The truth." Adesua laughed dismissively. "Truth doesn't pay for expensive lawyers." "You're correct," Zara agreed. "But the truth about your illegal business dealings, about how you built your empire through fraudulent contracts and systematic corruption, that truth is worth more than money to certain people." The silence on the other end was deafening. "You're bluffing," Adesua finally said, but her voice had lost its confidence. Fatima al-Rashid from the Metro Daily would like to speak with you, Zara said, handing the phone to the journalist. Good afternoon, Miss Okafor, Fatima said professionally. I'm completing an investigative series on questionable corporate practices. I'd like to offer you the opportunity to comment on the allegations we've documented. Adesua hung up immediately. Amma smiled proudly at her niece. Zara, you've learned well. Never attack directly when you can outmaneuver. Dr. Asante closed his briefcase. The legal strategy is solid. We have precedents where attempts to remove children based purely on socioeconomic status have been ruled discriminatory. And I have 4 years of research on every corrupt deal Adesua has ever made, Fatima added. Shell company contracts, suspicious payments to public officials, covered-up safety violations, enough to destroy any reputation. Zara picked up Kofi, the boy smiling innocently at the adults around him. What Adesua doesn't understand is that I'm not just fighting for Kofi. I'm fighting against a system that believes money can buy everything, including the right to destroy families. Amma approached, placing her hand on Zara's shoulder. Your mother would be proud of you, daughter. She always said education was the only inheritance no one could steal. Aunt Amma raised me after my parents died, Zara explained to the others. She taught me that it doesn't matter where you start, but where you're determined to go. And she taught me that sometimes, to protect what you love, you must be willing to go to war. The phone rang again. This time it was Adesua's lawyer. Miss Mensah, my client would like to propose a settlement. $700,000 and supervised visitation rights. Zara looked at her allies, all shaking their heads. Mr. Thompson, tell your client that Kofi is not for sale at any price. And inform her she has 48 hours to withdraw all legal threats against our family, or else on Monday morning, the Metro Daily will publish a comprehensive series on the corrupt business practices of Okafor Enterprises. I'm certain the IAS will find some of our documented evidence quite interesting. After hanging up, Fatima smiled. Zara, are you ready? Once we publish, Adesua will use every weapon against you. Zara looked at Kofi, now sleeping peacefully in her arms. Fatima, I've lived for 4 years knowing this day would come. Adesua thinks her wealth makes her invincible, but she's never faced someone who's had time to prepare properly. That night, while Kofi slept, Zara opened a chest in her bedroom. Inside were diplomas from evening law school, certificates from business management programs, recommendation letters from distinguished professors, and at the bottom, a photograph of her with Kwame and a young light-skinned woman. The photograph Adesua had never seen. The photograph that explained not only who Kofi's mother was, but why Zara had prepared so meticulously for this confrontation. Adesua Okafor was about to discover that underestimating someone can be the most expensive mistake a person can make, and that sometimes the sweetest justice doesn't come through force, but through patience, preparation, and the perfect moment to reveal truths that some people would do anything to keep buried. On Monday morning, Adesua woke to 43 missed calls. Her assistant David stood outside her bedroom door, holding a tablet with an expression of genuine terror. Adesua, you need to see this immediately, he said, his hands trembling as he passed her the device. The Metro Daily headline filled the screen, Empire built on corruption. Leaked documents revealed decades of crimes at Okafor Enterprises. Adesua felt her legs buckle. Below the headline, dozens of scanned documents showed fraudulent contracts, illegal payments to politicians, money laundering schemes. Each page was a death sentence for her reputation. How did they obtain this? She whispered, scrolling through the damning article. There were photographs of secret meetings she was certain no one had documented. Recordings of conversations that should have been private. Her phone rang. It was Marcus Thompson. Adesua, it's a complete catastrophe, he said bluntly. The IRS has issued search warrants. The FBI is en route to your residence. The Securities and Exchange Commission has suspended all trading of Okafor Enterprises stock. Adesua hung up and immediately called Zara, her hands shaking with rage and desperation. You, she screamed when Zara answered. "You orchestrated this destruction. How dare you ruin my life?" "Good morning, Adesua," Zara replied, her voice calm as still water. "I assume you've read the news. I'll destroy you. I'll use every resource I have to." "What resources?" Zara interrupted gently. "Because from what I'm seeing on the news, your bank accounts were frozen 20 minutes ago." Adesua rushed to her computer, frantically typing passwords into banking websites. "Access denied. Access denied. Access denied. This is impossible," she muttered. "Adesua, there's something my investigators didn't tell you," Zara continued. "Fatima al-Rashid doesn't work alone. She leads a team specializing in financial crimes. Every fraudulent document you've signed in the past 20 years has been traced." The television showed reporters outside the Okafor Enterprises building. Employees were leaving with boxes, their careers destroyed overnight. The reputation she had built over decades was being demolished live on national television. "Why?" Adesua asked, her voice breaking. "Why do this to me?" "Because you never asked about Kofi's mother," Zara said simply. "If you had, you would have discovered that her name was Kaya Okafor." Adesua's blood turned to ice. "That's impossible. Kaya was the daughter of Kweku Okafor, your cousin. The same cousin you betrayed in 1998 to steal his share of the family business." The memories flooded back. Kweku, young and trusting, signing documents Adesua had secretly altered. The family conflict she had won through lies and manipulation. His banishment from the family. "Kaya grew up in poverty because of your betrayal," Zara continued. "She met Kwame in college. They fell in love, but she was terrified to tell him who she was, knowing you would drive her from his life, just as you did to her father." Adesua vaguely remembered Kweku mentioning a daughter before vanishing from their lives. "When Kaya died in childbirth, Kwame came to me devastated. I was her best friend, and he knew Kaya wanted me to care for Kofi. But Kwame also discovered the truth about what you did to Kaya's family." "Kwame knew," Adesua whispered. "He spent his final months investigating you, Adesua. Gathering evidence of your crimes. When he died in that accident, he left everything to me, documents, recordings, proof. He asked me to wait for the right moment." Adesua saw FBI vehicles pulling up outside her house. "The accident?" she began. "It wasn't an accident," Zara said calmly. "Kwame uncovered a money laundering operation involving dangerous people. People you hired to eliminate problems. They killed your own son, Adesua." The revelation struck Adesua like lightning. Kwame had died because he had discovered her crimes. She had caused her own son's death through her greed. "Kofi is the last legitimate Okafor," Zara continued. "Kaya was the rightful heir to a fortune you stole. And now, with all your accounts frozen and your company seized, Kofi finally has what was always his." Adesua heard heavy footsteps on the stairs. Authoritative voices shouting FBI. "You planned this for 4 years," Adesua whispered, finally grasping the magnitude of what had happened. "Kwame taught me that patience is the foundation of justice," Zara replied. "Every document I collected, every course I completed, every contact I cultivated, all for this moment." The door burst open. Federal agents entered with arrest warrants. "Adesua Okafor, you're under arrest for tax fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy." As the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, Adesua heard Zara one final time. "Kofi will grow up knowing the truth about his family. He'll understand that justice, even when delayed, always prevails." Television cameras captured Adesua being led away in handcuffs, her downfall broadcast live to millions. The empire she had built on lies crumbled in mere hours. That afternoon, Zara sat in the park with Kofi, watching him play on the swings. Her phone rang. It was Aunt Amma. "Daughter, I saw the news. How are you feeling?" "Like Kwame can finally rest in peace," Zara replied, watching Kofi laugh as he played. And Kofi will grow up knowing that his family fought for justice, not revenge. What Adesua had learned too late was that Zara wasn't just a determined janitor. She was the guardian of a stolen legacy, a woman who had transformed 4 years of quiet preparation into the most perfect execution of justice the courts had ever witnessed. 2 years later, Millbrook Women's Correctional Facility was vastly different from the penthouse office Adesua had once ruled. Dressed in standard prison orange, she worked in the laundry for $3 an hour, an irony lost on no one. "Okafor, you have a visitor," the guard announced. Adesua expected her former lawyer or perhaps a journalist. Instead, she found Zara in the visiting room, elegantly dressed in a charcoal business suit that cost more than Adesua earned in 6 months. "I've come with news," Zara said confidently. "Kofi has been accepted at Riverside Academy, the same school Kwame attended. Full scholarship." Adesua felt a flicker of what might have been pride. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're his grandmother, and because Kofi asked me if bad people can become good. I told him it depends on whether they truly want to change." Zara opened a folder with photographs of Kofi smiling in his school uniform. "He's learning piano, just like his father. His teacher says he has natural talent." "How can you afford all this?" Zara smiled with genuine satisfaction. "The fortune you stole from Kaya's family was returned by the courts. Kofi is now heir to the entire legitimate Okafor estate. Ironic, isn't it?" Adesua closed her eyes. "And you? What did you gain from all this?" "I gained the opportunity to give Kofi what you never gave Kwame, a family that values love over money." Zara stood. "And the peace of knowing that Kaya and Kwame can finally rest." "Is Kofi happy?" "He's loved," Zara replied. "And that's all that ever mattered." Meanwhile, Kofi ran through the garden of his new home in Connecticut, a beautiful property overlooking the lake. Zara watched from the porch, her framed law degree visible behind her. "Mama, can I play piano for you?" Kofi called, running toward the house. "Of course, my love," Zara replied, thinking of how proud Kwame would be. Aunt Amma visited regularly, sharing family stories that Kofi treasured. "Aunt Amma taught me that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies," Zara had explained to Kofi, "but building something so beautiful that they regret not being part of it." Kofi would grow up knowing that his family had fought for dignity, not vengeance. That even when the world seems unfair, there's always a way to rewrite the story. Adesua had tried to buy a grandson but discovered that family cannot be purchased. It's built through love and presence. She lost everything because she confused power with worth, money with dignity. Zara's true victory wasn't destroying Adesua, it was building a future where Kofi would never repeat the previous generation's mistakes, where a child would grow up understanding that identity isn't defined by skin color or bank balance, but by strength of character. Adesua tried to use her wealth to steal Kofi, but she learned that genuine love is priceless. Zara proved that persistence and intelligence always triumph over arrogance and prejudice. Have you ever faced someone who tried to diminish your dreams because of your background? Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video if it inspires you, subscribe for more powerful stories and share this with someone to know justice, no matter how long it takes, always finds a way to prevail. See you in the next video.